Hey, this is Mike McFarlane, the voice of Master Roshi, and you're watching Manaboo! I mean Mana Beast!
Hello ladies and gents, Jeddah here with Mana Beast, and I wanted to do a video today on a new little series that I'm starting called The Core. I know it sounds like really epic, like The Core. It's a movie, you have to see The Core. I don't know, it sounds cool, and so I just went with it. Plus, I think it also works with what I'm going to talk about here, so roll with me. The Core are going to be a series of videos where I look at deck masteries and main personalities, combinations, and talk about core cards which are needed in every deck. Because a lot of people ask me about deck building and I want to build X deck with X personality, and how do I build it? Well, usually what I tell them is I say, well, what are the core cards? What are the core cards that you have in the deck already? You put those aside, and whatever those cards are, those are the core cards, and then you build on that. So you take what you have to have, and then if that's 30 cards out of your 60 card deck, or 40 cards out of your 60 card deck, then cool, you got 20 cards to play around, whether you're trying to do a Dragon Ball Victory, a Beat Down, an MPPV, like you build it from there, but you have to have the core. So on this first episode, I thought, why not take one of the most broken personalities slash masteries in the game and figure out what the core of the deck is. So if you're going to build a Namekian Piccolo triple threat, what is the core of the deck? Because everybody knows in any card game, okay, RNG exists and you have to be a really good player to pilot decks, okay? That's a given. However, it is always the more consistent decks with the better card pool that are going to let those better players win. So with Namekian Piccolo and looking at how it did in the Texas Regionals just a few weeks ago, I thought what better way to start off this new series than by looking at the deck lists of the 3 out of the top 4 people who ran Namekian, and I wanted to look at the common cards they have, because here's the thing, if you look at the top 3 decks in that top 4, you're going to see a lot of similarities in those decks, and part of what made them win was the core cards they all had. So I thought, I'm going to look at the similarities, what cards they all ran. I'm going to look at what cards they maybe ran a little differently, who ran more of what, who ran less of the other, and then I'm going to look at who ran cards that maybe the others didn't, and whether that was good or bad. So anyway, let's just start right in here. I've got the list here, handy dandy list, and I've even looked at, I've highlighted things. I've done like work and written on it and stuff, so you know, it's artificial. I've got first place, John Milner's deck. I've got third place, Timothy Cable's deck list, and then I've got fourth place, Dylan Warren's deck list. So first of all, let's just start in with the deck itself. Mastery, all 3 of them run Namekian Knowledge Mastery. Now, is it better than the new one? I still like it personally. I think the new one's got good synergy with draw capabilities and Dragon Balls and manipulating your deck. We haven't really seen that come through, so as far as consistency right now, the Namekian Knowledge Mastery is still the most popular as it was present in all 3 decks. So going on to the MPs, they're all running Piccolo, however, they're all running slightly different variants. Now, first place, John Milner, what I found interesting is he was running Piccolo Stoic, which is the original set 1 MP who is able to do an energy attack and then rejuvenate 1. However, 3rd and 4th, both at Timothy's and Dylan's, were running Composed. Personally, I like Composed better than the old one. Why? Very simple. If in battle I get out with Dragon Radar, ball 5, I gain stages with Piccolo 1, I gain an anger. I rejuvenate a card, and by rejuvenating the card through my mastery, I gain an anger. And by rejuvenating the card through Piccolo Composed, I gain an anger. And then the ball itself gains me anger. So in combat, off of 1 card, I gain 4 anger. That's more nutty than right throw, okay? It's insane. And then if I have the perfect card in there, if I got knee block in there, I can get 5 anger. You have a possibility, turn 1 or turn 2, getting 5 anger and going right to 2. And in my opinion, that was always the problem with old Piccolo. You couldn't get off of him. You were on level 1 and you couldn't get enough anger to get off of him quickly. Yeah, you did have his main attack, which rejuvenated one and got you an anger, but like this one is just so much more insane. It synergizes better with your rejuvenation effects. I think it works better personally, and in my opinion, it's more consistent to get off from level 1 to 2. But speaking of level 2, let's look at what they're all running. Every one of them, all 3 of them, were running Piccolo Combat stance because I'm sorry, like I'm not even talking about just in like the Piccolo matchup, but in just MPs in general. Piccolo has got the nuttiest level 2 in all damn existence. It's good. It's good. Crits, rejuving, milling, critical effects, drawing cards. It just does so much. You can't go wrong with the level 2. Now, MP3, we got John, first place, who is running Unleashed, while the 3 and 4 are running Ferocious. What I find interesting is actually I like personally having +2 life cards of damage for all my attacks, and also I like the ability to have built-in effects with rejuvenation when I do deal my critical. I personally think it's still better. I know there's maybe a little bit of a personal, people like the damage of the new one, so you get the 7 stages guaranteed. My only problem with the new one is I know you get the physical attack in 7 stages, and it's great, but it's 1 attack, and my other issue with it is if there are no Dragon Balls on the field, at least on your opponents, like you really don't get the benefit. So if you're not going against the ball deck or they haven't captured your balls, I don't know, I just see it as less consistent. I see the old one is better energy attack, so every time I throw something at you, I'm doing +2 life cards. And then of course, the crit damage, being able to help my deck go off, be more consistent, do the rejuvenate. And then MP4, both John at first and Tim at third were running Fused, while fourth was running Revitalized. Now, I think Fused is still the better one. It's better for consistency, it's better for them not doing crits to you, and then it's got its own built-in energy attack that if I hit you, I do things to your butt, and you don't want that. So, really, if I'm going to tell you what to run, okay, after looking over all the data here, if I'm going to tell you what to run for your Piccolo with the Namekian Knowledge Mastery, it's real easy. Run the new one, and then old 2, 3, and 4. I know people are going to disagree. The only one I may go back and forth on would be 3, depending on what the goal of your deck is. But I still think the old 3 is better. I still think once you get off 2 and you get on to 3, you need to be beating people down, right? That +2 is so powerful. So then, you know, when I'm deciding to throw an attack at you, like Onslaught, okay, I'm doing 6 to you now, 2 times in a row. That to me is much more powerful than a 1-time 7-stage attack. But that's my opinion. So let's go into the card itself and see what all of them are running. These all here, from what I can see, look like a sort of triple threat deck. Every one of them ran Namekian Dragon Ball 1 through 7. It's a given, I'm sorry. It's too good not to run them, and it adds an extra layer of win condition for you, so 1 through 7, it's easy. Looking at allies, all of them are running Korin. Every single one of them is running the new Korin, because if that card's broke, you hit me, cool, rejuve 1, gain an. You hit me, cool, rejuve, gain an. That way when they throw those small attacks at you, you do a couple life cards, you do 2 to 3, you're at Piccolo 4. And this is especially good because they hit you for a 5 damage attack or a 6 damage attack. You're like, awesome, that's great. You know, I'll take that all day long, and then I'll rejuve that last card and gain an anger. So what it puts on pressure to the opponent is, do they really want to hit you? Like, do they really want to hit you right now? Because they could. And then once they hit you, you're going to gain an anger. So it's a really, really amazing card. And with the new Piccolo 1, you just, I'm telling you, you gain stupid amounts of anger with this deck. Now, one card that John Milner ran in his deck that I didn't see in the other 2 was Krillin Ally, which I personally have in my deck. I think it's a great card. It stops against the blue matchups. Again, every time you go into a turn, you're popping off a drill they have. So you go against the blue deck, there goes Mental Drill, there goes Biting Drill, there goes Lifting Drill, Black, there goes Smoothness Drill. There are so many really good drills out there in the top meta decks that, you know, hey, I'm not running drills, but cool, I'll go ahead and just get rid of your drills every turn. Whether we go into combat or not, I'm just, yeah, okay, screw your drills, you know. I think it's great, but they don't run it. They're all Kami Guardian, the ally, which is, it's just too good. It's helps with those stall games when they don't get the good turns. Instead of just rejuvening one, you rejuve two, and it really helps to keep your deck going in the slow games. So while your opponent's throwing away 2 cards every turn, you're only throwing away 1 card less if you throw something on the field, which is much, much better. Everybody's running Dragon Radar because, getting Dragon Balls is awesome. Everybody's running Namekian Dragon Clan because getting more balls is more awesome. Time is a Warrior's Tool, everyone is running. Namekian Wish, great card, great tech to get out of certain situations. All of them are running Namekian Gut Punch because at 1, it's just a good anti-ally card. A lot of decks now, especially with blue, even with some of the other meta decks, are running specific kinds of allies, 1 or 2, and then it just helps to get rid of that. So, for instance, if you're going against somebody who has Roshi on the field and you're trying to search your deck, you can just pop them off and go, cool. Go away, I don't need you, go. They are all running Namekian Maximum Will, which I think is a great card, not only for the energy attack, but it's anti-anger. So anytime you go up against a red deck or another Namekian deck, you're doing 2 things, right? You got an energy attack with decent endurance. It does a pretty good amount of life card damage, and the whole destroying cards off the top of your deck feeds into your rejuvenation. So you're like, cool, I'll mill cards off the top of my deck, I'll take you down anger, I'll slow your game down, so good toolbox. Namekian Knee Block. They run it at 2 here. Some people run it higher, but Namekian Knee Block has got to be in there. It's stupid good. Stupid good. If it's rejuvenated, you gain an anger. And this means outside of combat. So in a situation where you got cards in your hand and you don't got a good combat to go into, great, ditch it. You can rejuve it and you'll gain 1 anger off of it. So helps the slow game, good physical block. All decks are running 2 of Namekian Fusion, which I will kind of talk a little bit about that with growth. It's a little side subject we'll go into. Fusion is great for gaining stages. Personally, I like the card, but the number of non-styles run in the deck, to me, if you draw that non-style, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but it definitely makes your deck less powerful. It's less powerful in effect, and like I said, we'll go back and compare that in growth because not all the decks in the top 4 ran them. To visiting the past, because, and I've had a conversation with Paul Berner Jr. about this a lot. I do believe in certain decks, in certain fast-paced decks, in certain beat-down energy, just bite you in the face decks, that visiting isn't always viable. And that's fine. I believe in this deck it is completely viable. I think fishing out cards from your discard pile, being able to have effects, even fishing cards in a certain way so that when you rejuve, you get better effects. I still think it's an amazing card to have. It's at 2, and everybody else does as well. Running 2 Heroic Energy Spheres, which in the Namekian deck, they're probably one of the best effects because not only do you stop their effects, but guess what? You get a rejuve, and by rejuving, you get anger. They each run 2 except Tim. He does not run spheres, which is very interesting. And I will talk about that a little bit later because I do believe you can run the deck without spheres, in my personal opinion. I do believe Namekian is a deck you can run without spheres. I know they're expensive, but they are great. They are great cards. We're going to have 3 Namekian Flinch. Some will run it at different amounts, but Flinch is just great all around for getting allies out of the discard pile when they're critted away, and then of course being able to recur cards when you rejuvenate it. So it all around helps tutor and toolbox your deck while giving you a physical block. So pretty amazing. We got 3 Namekian Ride Throw. 3 Namekian Ride Throw because gaining 3 anger is pretty stupid. This is pretty stupid. 3 Namekian Onslaught because I still think the card is really good. It's a rejuve, it's a 4, altogether, it's 8. But if you look at it in the long run, you're getting to level 3, you got ball 1, it's doing 7 life cards each time. So 4 and 4 with 2 rejuves to gain anger, pretty good effect, pretty amazing effect. 3 Namekian Hyper Defense because, we like being able to guard against the energies and the physicals, and then of course, what? More rejuving, because we're Namekian. And then 3 Piccolo's Weighted Clothing because, telling you I get to go first and you get to skip your turn, and then I get to gain 2 anger. Pretty good. Pretty broke. So let's talk about some of the cards that aren't similar, okay? Here in the first place deck, John Milner's, he has a card which I run, and I think it's quite amazing. Namekian Energy Assault. Think of this as the overpowering attack for Namekian. What I like about it is it's a styled card, number 1, so for your level 2. It's styled for your Fusion, another great option. The other part about it is it's ball protection and anger gain. Energy Assault not only gains you the ally, not only protects your ball, but then you gain the anger because you're shuffling the ball back into your deck. Both Tim and Dylan's deck did not run that. This is a card that I really love. Both Tim and John, John at first and Tim at third, ran Namekian Growth. Now, Dylan did not. Personally, I prefer Namekian Growth over Fusion. All day, every day, I will pick 2 Growth over 2 Fusion any day. And in fact, in my own deck, I only run 2 Growth. I don't run any Fusion. A couple reasons. My problem with Fusion, as I said before, if you draw a non-styled card, it really hurts your deck. I get the stage gain. I get the ability to draw a card is good anyway. So that in itself is great. But the flexibility of Growth is what I like. Not only am I rejuvenating 4, but when I get to level 3, the old 3, and I have a +2 on my modifiers, I would personally suggest Growth over Fusion. That's my opinion. John at first had an interesting choice here. 2 Namekian Hurried Quest, which I've seen teched in a lot of decks. Clayton, a fellow member here in town, has ran it in his Slug deck. I like the card. I do like the card. However, I don't run it personally because it can be situational. You have to have 2 balls on the field, and what it can do is lead to you having 2 of them in your hand, and sometimes making them less effective. What's interesting is John runs it, but Tim and Dylan don't run it at all. So kind of an interesting tech there. As I said, both John at first and Dylan at fourth run spheres, but Tim does not. Personally, I don't think you have to run spheres. I know it's an expensive card, and I think this deck is still viable even without spheres. Here he's running Namekian Deflection, which Tim does not. I like the card. I think it's a good way to ensure more crits. It's really the main reason I like it, because a lot of times in this deck with getting balls back, or if you're trying to attack your opponent and crit away anger and crit away allies, it helps lower that barrier. So when I'm throwing Onslaught at you for 4, I'm 1 over what's already going to be a crit to you, which is pretty dang amazing. John here at first does have 3 Crushing Beam. However, both Tim and Dylan don't have Crushing Beam in their deck. He has it at 3. Now, here's what I will say. I personally run it at 2. It's a great all-around card. It has great life card damage, and it shuffles into your deck, so it's free anger, just right off the bat. I would run it at 2 just because you can shuffle it. 3 I think is too much, but again, personal opinion here, totally personal opinion. He does run Double Strike. Tim does not. I personally absolutely love Double Strike. It's one of my favorite cards that I didn't use much before, but both here locally, Tom and Clayton have shown me the light with Double Strike. Just the ability to shuffle a ball in to get a crit effect is stupid amazing. Again, protecting your ball, shuffling theirs back, getting anger for shuffling, and you get a crit effect on top of it. So, in the ideal situation, you're doing an energy attack that's doing life card damage, you're gaining anger from the ball, and then you do a crit effect, which may help you steal a ball, or you can retire an ally, or you can lower anger. Stupid good, stupid good. Here is Energy Guard. Actually, the 4th place deck did not run Energy Guard nor Overtime, which, and I don't know, Dylan, probably a great player, good guy. I personally think that is a mistake not to have either of those cards in there. Energy Guard is just too good. It's too good of a card, it helps rejuve. And Overtime, it is one of the best cards in not only Namekian, but I think the entire meta. Like, I get a milieu, and I get to tutor my deck and toolbox for whatever I want. Do I want crits with Double Strike? Do I want to throw energies at you over and over again with Onslaught? Any energy style that I have in my deck, I throw at you. And again, that's why I go back to what I said here with Energy Assault. I feel is better than Overtime or than Overpowering Attack because I can fetch it out with Overtime, which is, in my opinion, much, much better. We already talked about Krillin, supportive. I believe it's a good card to tech in. I know there's not as much worry about drills, but again, you're not running drills. I think it's a perfectly fine card to be on the field to get rid of those drills. Now I'm going to look at a couple other cards that I do think should be put in the deck, which aren't here on the first place. Tin Cable, I think his deck is quite amazing, and his choices here, which I completely agree with. Tug of War at 2. I like Gut Punch. I do. Gut Punch is a great card. However, it's dependent on what your level's at. And Tug of War for me is so much better because not only does it have the effect of getting rid of allies, okay, but number one, instead of discarding them, it banishes it. And beyond that, it lowers anger. And beyond that, it shuffles back into your deck. So now that it shuffles back into your deck, you gain an anger. To me, Tug of War has much more synergy with Namekian than the style Namekian card, Namekian Gut Punch. He runs it at 2. I think it's amazing because, again, you just get it back into your deck, you can throw it back out there, and it will absolutely devastate allies. Just super, super huge. Namekian Silencing, which I don't run in my deck, but I can see why you'd run it. It's just great to be able to stop them, whether they're going to spears, well, pardon me, that would actually stop, but times, whether they're going to overtime, any of the really great events, it's just going to shut it off, and then your balls can't be stolen. So I don't care if you crit me, I don't care if you face smash me, I don't care if you do any of 100 different things, you can lower my anger, can't catch my balls. Those times where you have a field full and you don't have one out, it's a really good defense. He is running 2 Devastating Blows, which I look at that, I think it's a great set 1 meta card. I've been on the fence about it a lot. I like the ability to lower anger, I like the raising anger, I like controlling their discard pile so I can banish those key cards. So I'm on the fence about it, but I can see why I do it. And a card he does run, and also looking here, I still think is needed, is Focused Assault. Now, he has it at 3, and I'm not saying it has to be at 3, but I still think attached cards and even wall breakers are viable. You're not going to see them as prevalent, you're not going to see them as big, but if you do get wall breakered on level 1, your deck in Namekian suffers extremely hard. It's super hard for you to come back. So I'd run it at 2, just as a tech, or even at 1, because I still do believe that attached cards like wall breaker are a thing. So yeah, that's just going over here. Those were the cards I looked at. I think if you look at these decks and the cards they hold in similarities, which I'm going to list here in the description below the video, and then of course we're going to have listed on the side, that in my opinion are the core cards. If you're going to build Namekian Piccolo Triple Threat, those are the cards that you're going to want to run as the core, because those are going to up your consistency, that's going to up your toolboxing abilities, because the deck is all about consistency and toolboxing. And the more elements you have to make it toolboxy, the better. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Hopefully it's giving you some ideas, some thoughts on your deck. If you wonder why it's maybe not performing as well, maybe we gave you a few ideas here you can kind of garner some information from. If you've got opinions, if there's a card not mentioned or that wasn't in here on the top 3 list, post in the comments below. What do you run in Namekian Piccolo? What is that card that you feel is a core card that you have to run in every Namekian Piccolo deck? Other than that, appreciate you for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, and we'll see you all fine, sexy people next time.
Dragon, ball, dragon,